Welcome back to Mike on Hong Kong.
Great to be here. We've got a really interesting and actually quite controversial topic lined up today. It's all about a recent school policy change that's really stirred things up.
Absolutely. It touches on so much. Culture, education, fairness, competition, all playing out right here in the city.
Yeah, it's one of those local stories that really says a lot about bigger trends. You know, when language standards meet shifting demographics, things can get heated pretty fast.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really take a deep dive into this decision by a government primary school, Shatton Government Primary School, to be specific about using Chinese characters in exams.
Right, and it's caused quite a stir.
It really has. While it's just one school, it taps into these broader debates about traditional versus simplified Chinese, about integration, and about the pressures of the Hong Kong education system.
So the core event, just to set the scene, Shatton Government Primary announced this, well, quite significant change. Pupils from Primary 2 all the way up to Primary 6 would now be allowed to use Simplified Chinese Characters, SCC, in tests and exams.
And the reaction wasn't subtle, was it?
Not at all. It was immediate and pretty strong. We saw, over 200 parents signing a petition almost straight away.
Yeah, opposing the move. The key word they used was unfair. That really sets the stage for the conflict here.
It does. It really forces you to look at what happens when a school tries to accommodate students, but that accommodation gets seen as, well, messing with the fairness of the whole assessment system.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. Before we get into the parent backlash, we need to understand the school's perspective. What was their official reasoning for this change? It's quite a sensitive area.
Well, the school framed it mostly around practicalities and demographics. Their official line was that the policy aims to cater to the increasingly diverse learning needs of our students. They're basically saying, look, our student body is changing.
Diverse needs, meaning primarily students may be coming from the mainland or from backgrounds where simplified Chinese is just what they know and use.
Exactly that. The school explicitly said the change was meant to provide a, quote, more friendly assessment environment for students with mainland backgrounds, or those accustomed to using simplified Chinese characters.
Okay.
The thinking seems to be, let's test their knowledge of the subject, not penalize them purely for the writing system they're more familiar with.
That logic makes sense on the surface, right? Test the content, not the script. But didn't the school also suggest this could benefit local students too? How did they frame that?
Yeah, they did. They claimed local students would gain exposure, get a chance to learn about both writing systems, and they argued this would actually enhance reading and communication skills overall. Sort of a best of both worlds argument, aiming for a more comprehensive mastery of Chinese.
So the official pitch is accommodation for some, enrichment for all. But crucially, did they reassure parents that traditional Chinese, TC, would still be the main focus in teaching?
Oh yes, they were very clear on that point. They emphasized TC remains the primary script used in the curriculum in day-to-day teaching. This was presented purely as flexibility during assessment, not a shift in what's taught.
But let's be a bit critical. Is catering to diverse needs the whole story, or could it be, as some parents suspected, a bit of an emergency response? And what did the Education Bureau, the EDB, make of all this?
Well, the EDB sort of pumped the brakes a little. They acknowledged that the school has autonomy in these matters, but they also reminded the school to fully consult stakeholders. And that definitely includes parents before finalizing changes like this.
So not a blank check then?
Not exactly. And the EDB also made a point of saying this policy was specific to Shatton Primary's situation. It couldn't be seen as a general green light for other schools. They definitely weren't rushing to champion this citywide.
Okay, that really sets up the conflict. The school aiming for accommodation, maybe integration, but parents immediately seeing it through the lens of fairness and competition. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's dive into that backlash, starting with the unfair advantage claim.
Right. This competitive angle is really potent, isn't it? Especially given how high-stakes education is here in Hong Kong. A parent representative, Mr. Sang, put it plainly, the core concern is that you have SC users and TC users competing against each other in the same exam.
And the unfairness comes down to something quite mechanical, just the number of strokes in the characters.
Precisely. Simplified Chinese characters, by definition, have fewer strokes than traditional ones, sometimes significantly fewer. And this is where the pressure points of the Hong Kong system really come into play.
Yes, so.
Parents argue that fewer strokes mean SE users can literally write and finish the exam quickly. They spend less time and physical effort just forming the characters.
Which gives them more time to think or check their work.
Exactly. Comparatively, they might have more time to review answers, maybe write fuller responses, or even just feel less rushed during the test compared to students laboriously writing complex TC characters.
And this isn't just a minor inconvenience, is it? We know these internal exams, especially in primary 5 and 6, are incredibly important because they determine banding. Could you quickly explain for listeners what banding means in this context?
Sure. Banding is absolutely critical. It's the system that ranks students based on their academic results. And that rank directly impacts their priority when it comes to getting into secondary schools. A higher band means access to the more sought-after secondary schools.
So any perceived advantage in these key exams could potentially affect a child's entire educational future. Parents see this policy as possibly skewing those crucial banding results.
That's the heart of the fear. Even a small edge in exam speed or efficiency could, in theory, make a difference in that ranking.
Can we make that more concrete? Like, how much faster is SC, really? Does it genuinely add up?
Well, think about it. Consider a common but complex character like dragon. In traditional Chinese, that's 16 strokes you need to write perfectly under pressure.
Right.
The simplified version is just 5 strokes. That's 11 strokes saved right there.
Right.
Now, imagine an essay or a long answer question requiring hundreds of characters. Those save strokes, character after character, they really accumulate. It can easily translate into several extra minutes of thinking or checking time over the course of an exam.
Okay, yeah. When you put it like that, you can see why parents call it an advantage. It's not just theoretical.
It's a tangible difference in the physical act of writing during a timed assessment.
So the unfair competition argument is clear, but the parents' anger wasn't just about that, was it? There was a lot of criticism about how the school introduced the procedure.
Absolutely. That's the other major pillar of the backlash. Parents like Mr. Tsang felt the school deliberately sidestepped proper consultation. They asked, how could it change this significant bypass the Parent-Teacher Association or the school council? These bodies are supposed to be involved.
And was there a sense that this lack of consultation was deliberate to avoid opposition?
That was definitely the suspicion. Tsang claimed the school had a meeting scheduled for October 25th, but failed to mention this massive policy change then. He speculated they intentionally skipped it to avoid parents voicing objections. This really fueled a narrative among some parents that this policy wasn't really about broad diversity goals, but maybe more of an emergency fix for a specific situation.
An emergency fix? For who?
Well, the speculation, and we should stress it's speculation from the parents, was that this was mainly to help a small group, maybe around 10 newly admitted primary 5 students, who were really struggling with traditional characters in an earlier assessment.
Ah, I see.
The rumor was these kids basically got their characters wrong and might have scored 0 without being allowed to use SE.
So a policy presented as being for everyone's benefit is seen by the community as potentially a rushed, non-transparent solution for a handful of students, implemented without asking the wider parent body.
And the way parents were informed just added fuel to the fire. They received an electronic circular, but it apparently only had an option to sign acknowledging you'd received it and would cooperate.
No option to disagree.
According to the reports, no mechanism for formal dissent, which, basically forces passive acceptance and understandably made parents feel ignored.
That's a really crucial point about how consent or lack thereof was managed. This procedural anger, combined with the competition fears, really elevates the whole debate. Okay, let's step back a bit. Beyond this specific school drama, what do wider education experts say about introducing SC at this level, in primary school, in a place like Hong Kong where TC is the norm?
Well, the general feeling among many local education figures seems to be quite cautious. Jessie Chung Chokfong, who chairs the Subsidized Primary Schools Council, came out quite strongly, saying it was not appropriate at the primary level.
Not appropriate. Why that firm stance? Wouldn't early exposure potentially help achieve that comprehensive mastery the school mentioned?
Her argument is really about cognitive load and building a solid foundation first. The idea is that young children, especially when they're just forming their core literacy skills, should really focus on mastering one standard system properly. And in Hong Kong, that's TC. Trying to juggle both too early could just lead to confusion.
So master one first, then maybe add the other later.
Exactly. She suggested that once students have a good grasp of the commonly used TC characters, maybe then in secondary school they could learn SC as an additional set.
And there's a strong cultural dimension to this preference for TC, right? It's not just about which system is standard.
Oh, definitely. That's a huge part of the argument. The view is that traditional characters carry the cultural essence of the language. They often visually represent the meaning or components in a way that simplified characters sometimes lose.
Can you give an example?
The classic example is the character for love. In traditional Chinese, it contains the radical for heart in the middle. The simplified version removes the heart component. Purists argue that this structural connection between the written form and its deeper meaning is part of the cultural heritage preserved in TC.
So it becomes this fundamental choice. Prioritize the efficiency and speed potentially offered by SC, especially in exams, or prioritize the cultural depths and historical continuity embedded within TC.
That's the dilemma. And it's not just educators. We even had former Chief Executive Lin Chunying wade into this debate.
Oh, really? What was his take?
He framed it more as an issue of effort and responsibility. He sort of questioned, is learning TC really harder than learning English? His point seemed to be that students coming from the mainland should basically work harder to master TC because it's the standard widely used in Hong Kong society and schools.
Kind of like an immigrant needing to learn the local language.
Precisely. He used the analogy, if you study in the US or UK, you're expected to put in the effort to learn English, right? The system doesn't typically bend its core language requirements entirely around you.
So the implication there is that the onus is on the newcomer to adapt to the local standard, rather than the system fundamentally changing its assessment rules to accommodate. It really frames it as assimilation versus accommodation.
Which is, a particularly charged perspective in a place like Hong Kong that values its distinct cultural identity, including its use of traditional Chinese.
Okay, let's zoom out even further then. For listeners, let's quickly establish the bigger picture. Why do we even have these two different systems, traditional and simplified Chinese? What's the origin story?
It's really a story rooted in 20th century history and politics, specifically aimed at taxing literacy. Traditional Chinese, PC, is the ancient form. Its roots go back thousands of years, stabilizing around the Han Dynasty, maybe 200 BC.
And that's what's still used here in Taiwan, Macau.
Right, and in many older overseas Chinese communities. It's complex, beautiful, historically rich, but also difficult to learn. There are tens of thousands of characters, many with lots of strokes.
And that complexity was seen as a barrier to mass literacy.
Exactly. Especially in the mid-20th century.
Yeah.
So after the People's Republic of China was established in 1949, one of its major campaigns was to simplify the script, to make it easier for the vast population to learn to read and write.
And that's how Simplified Chinese, SC, came about.
Yes. Introduced officially in the 1950s, the goal was explicitly literacy. They reduced stroke counts, simplified radicals, sometimes merged characters. It was designed for speed and ease of learning, and it became the standard in mainland China, and later adopted in places like Singapore and Malaysia too.
So the fundamental trade-off we keep coming back to. SE prioritizes accessibility and writing speed, potentially sacrificing some historical depth. TC preserves that intricate historical and cultural linkage, but demands more effort to master.
That really is the core tension. Speed and reach versus depth and heritage.
And globally, this isn't just an academic debate, is it? With China's economic importance, this SC versus TC decision is huge.
Absolutely massive. You've got 1.3 billion native speakers. China's economy is, enormous. And private consumption there is predicted to double by 2030. Any international company wanting to engage with the Chinese-speaking world has to make a call. Do we use SC or TC for our website, our marketing, our software?
You have to choose your audience, essentially.
You do. Pick the wrong one, and you might alienate a huge potential market. So this debate happening in a Hong Kong primary school is actually a small reflection of a major practical decision businesses and organizations face constantly.
Okay, let's bring it back home for a final thought. We've seen the clear tension. The school trying to be accommodating, create a friendly assessment environment for a diverse student body.
Clashing directly with parents concerned about maintaining local standards, preserving the role of traditional Chinese, and crucially, ensuring fair competition in that high-pressure banding system.
Where even small differences in writing speed could potentially impact a child's future path.
Yeah. And if you connect this to the bigger history, SC was born out of a drive for mass literacy, for access. TC is often defended for preserving cultural lessons, for mastery. This Hong Kong school debate puts those two goals head to head.
Which forces a really tough question for the education system here. At the primary level, for all students, local and new arrivals, which value do you prioritize in assessment? Efficiency and access, or heritage and depth?
It's a fundamental choice. And the irony here is that in aiming for that more friendly environment, the school seems to have stumbled into creating an assessment situation that many in the community see as fundamentally unfair or even hostile to the established local norms.
We hope this deep dive has helped you, the listener, understand the layers of complexity in this what seems like a small policy change, but touches on so much. Something to think about. When learning any complex skill, especially language, how do we balance the need for speed and efficiency with the value of depth and tradition?
A question with no easy answers. Thanks for joining us for this exploration today.